Nikki Sixx, famous for the band, who was proclaimed clinically dead after an overdose on heroin at the age of 29. The band came back. Kickstart My Heart was why that song was written, and lived to tell his story. The first 21, How I Became Nikki Sixx, which comes out today, traces through his entire first 21 years of his life, including introduction to drugs at an especially early age by a mother's then boyfriend. You know, you hear these stories
you hear
a
that
lot.
Yeah, you do.
And I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get mothers of children, and I realize that the fathers may not even be around. It's not like they went to court for a custody battle. The mom was left with a kid. I don't know if she wants to, but there's still this maternal aspect between a mother and a child that she wants to protect. And then she brings some knucklehead boyfriend who either kills the kid, beats the kid up while she's at work, or lets that outsider, the boyfriend. And I've seen this with Big Oak Ranch, where you'll have a mother and a child. The child will be 11, 12 years old. She meets a guy, and he said, it's either me or your kid.
Oh, yeah.
And she's dropping the kid off at Big. And I'm going, that just blows my mind that a guy can have, because family for me is always going to be first. It will always be first. And I've even told them through my divorce. My kids are asking me, "Are you going to get married again?" I said, and I'll go back to Andy and Opie.
Yep.
There's an episode where Andy meets a woman, and he's out.
Pretty.
She's real pretty, and she can't put a worm on a hook. And Opie's feeling like an outsider. And he talks about that special love that a father has for his son, and then a special love he was have for a woman who's a companion. And he's like, "You'll always be my son, and I'll always be with you." And so to see people, that just is like, it
Well, and it makes
out.
you also realize. I mean, it makes you realize, or I hope it makes you realize that there are people for whom that is their struggle. I mean, particularly the single mom, the mom where the dad is not in the biological father's not in the picture. She's struggling. Maybe she meets a guy who she loves or supports her, whatever. It's rare. This is what I always say. It's rare that it starts off, on the first date. Well, listen, I'm going to come in here, but X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's not. It sort of gradually becomes that. And then she's left with a dilemma because she feels supported for the first time. Because as a parent, I mean, listen, you and I are in some of the most sort of privileged situations. We have a job, we got income. You going through a divorce, but you have a mom who's or an ex-wife's coming. Imagine if you had nobody, if all you had was this child. And let's just be honest about the way the kids make us feel sometimes. There are times where our kids, we love our kids, but they're not fulfilling any of our needs.
Yeah.
Right? And so when that personal need is deep and strong, and maybe you had the child at a young age and all these kinds of things, it's not so much condoning it. Again, it's trying to understand how it gets there, because it doesn't get there because mom hates child. It gets there because mom is desperate. What am I going to do? And let me just say one other thing. There are lots of parents who have kids who didn't want to have kids.
Yeah.
Who didn't want, because I think you have to be careful. When you say, well, I don't want that child. How could you not want that? It's not that child. It's, I didn't want to have a child. Yeah. Or I thought I wanted to have a child, and now they're born and I don't. And listen, it is very real to have a child and then realize I didn't want to have a child, which means this child.
Yeah.
And that's, let's just cut the shit. Like, that is the reality of it. It's not you have the kid, and every parent who has a baby loves their baby and all that kind of stuff. You're not necessarily leaving them out in the cold, but there are lots of situations where you don't love that child.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. He's in Mexico, Nikki Sixx is. Says, I have faint memories of Bernie, who's his mother's boyfriend, drinking and smoking weed, although I didn't know what weed was at the time. In his book, The First 21, How I Became Nikki Sixx, out today, I have some memories of Bernie asking me if I wanted to try what he was smoking. I recall doing that and feeling kind of tripped out. It wasn't until much later that I realized he had turned me on to marijuana. I was 6.
Yeah, see, like that's just...
Born Frank Farina Jr., Sixx would eventually...
Wait, what was his name? That's what...
Frank Farina Jr.
That's why I become Nikki Sixx.
That's why you're Nikki Sixx. Would eventually graduate to take LSD while attending Roosevelt High School in Seattle, Washington, near your neck of the woods, and having a mind-altering experience. The batch we got a hold of was called Four-Way Window Pane, he writes in his book. 2 years before he co-founded Motley Crue in 1981 with drummer Tommy Lee. God, it's been 40 years since they founded Motley Crue.
Yeah.
It's flipping crazy. We were supposed to take one square and split it up into 4 pieces.
Oh, no.
But I'd never seen acid before. I thought that one square was one hit, not 4. It was not a good experience. I say it altered my mind. I don't think I've seen my hands, the clouds, a tree, the grass, or mountains, or heard my voice the same way again. I live next to a guy that...
Live or lived?
I lived next to a guy. They were that... Every neighborhood has a bad family. You know?
Yeah.
Where there's...
Something
crashing and you know, and you're nice to them because this family, the Crosbys, they live right next door. My brother was good friends with Jeff Crosby, and then Danny, who is like 70 years old, still walks our neighborhood, just walks the neighborhood. He's got long gray hair. He kind of looks like a miniature Einstein. Had a really bad trip on acid, like in high school, and was never the same. I mean, he went and never came back.
Jeez.
And has had issues ever since. Then as a teenager, he went from using drugs to selling them, including Masculine. Am I saying it? Masculine or Masculine? M-E-S-C. No, not muscadine. Muscadine. Mescaline. It came in the form of an off-white powder like a lighter shade of cocoa. It gave me the idea of mixing it with the cocoa and selling it at school. Chocolate Mescaline was the brand name I came up with as surefire thing. He also reveals in The First 21 that his mother, Deanna, once dated comedian Richard Pryor.
Whoa.
While they were living in Lake Tahoe, California in the 60s. He said of Richard, he was kind, and I remember him down on his knees and hands playing with me, cracking jokes that I thought were the funniest things in the world. He had held on to his own inner child, but would sometimes be sad. But by the time I entered high school, he'd become more than just famous. He was an icon.
Wow.
Yeah, who knew that Nikki Sixx's mother dated Richard Pryor? I mean,
in Lake Tahoe.
In Lake Tahoe.
Right.
He recounts how his own journey to fame revved up while he was in another band in London, playing the Starwood on Sunset Strip in West Hollywood. The club showcased such rock acts as Quiet Riot, whose then lead singer Kevin DeBro once asked Sixx to join his band. I turned him down flat. It was owned by gangster Eddie Nash. The club was the alleged mastermind of the Wonderland murders in the Laurel Canyon section of Los Angeles in 1981. Are you aware of those?
Yes, the Laurel Canyon.
He was a perpetually coked up, paranoid, vicious, and violent man.
Jeez.
He said you played and he paid you and you did not talk back. He also mentions in The First 21 how Frank Farina, his name, who became Nikki Sixx, said he stole the name from Jeff Nicholson, who was a frontman of a California cover band called Squeeze, went by Nikki Sixx with a SYXX. So he stole that name.
Wait, this is not the Squeeze?
No.
Okay.
It was a California cover band.
Okay.
I love that name right away, even though it was missing that sweet extra K. Then and there, I decided to steal it for a while. I went around calling myself Nikki London. Nikki 9 was on the table briefly. Anyway.
You know, it's so interesting. So I always think about this about rockers. Because we call them rockers, but their trade is music. It's musicians, right? I can't play an instrument worth, pay me $1 million. So I think about this, and you think about these stories. Like, and there was in a band, and there was dealing drugs. Like, I want to say this. You have to have some semblance of musical talent.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't just... I think about that a lot. Like, these are guys and gals, you know, they got to be able to sing or at least figure out how to play guitar or drums or something. And what's real interesting is, like, that's a talent. That's a major talent. That not everybody's got that.
Yep.
And if you took a different talent, you'd never be able to navigate that by selling drugs, by doing all this stuff. But it's almost like you said, at least back then, it was kind of, it's like you had your drugs, you had your talent, and then it was part of the culture.
Yeah.
Which just, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, well, we know there's a gazillion that never make it.
Well, there is a gazillion that don't make it, and I think there's a love affair that fans have with bands that did these kind of things, and you're like, whoa, and there's a coolness factor to it.
Yeah.
Because they did come out the other side, and they seem to be okay.
You're right.
He's 62, he's still in the band, he's making millions of dollars, but we don't know if he's okay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you don't know.
Right.
I mean, we just see the fame and fortune and the mansions and the cars and the women, and we think that's the life. That would be super cool. Well,
Well, again.
I don't know, man. I mean, and again, I don't think he'd trade his life for anyone else's. But is that the life you really want? And again, Damon Johnson's going to be doing a show
I'd love to
as
ask
well
him
as
that.
Austin Hanks with Billy Gibbons. I'd love to ask him, at one point, this would be a killer show with you.
Yeah.
At what point in your life did you realize, okay, this is getting a little out of control here? You're dealing drugs at school before he was in Motley Crue. He gets in Motley Crue, and certainly that's just excerpts of the book.
Yeah.
I was reading the Rob Halford book, Confessed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's all out there. I mean, when you're famous enough and you don't have to worry about any ramifications or any response, and you just lay it all out there, certainly nothing that would get you arrested, I guess. You're not going to sit there and I had sex with an 11-year-old or something, but I mean, it's like, whoa. And it's a beautiful story in that you feel like, okay, they made it through this tumultuous, exciting, chaotic, dramatic part of their life, and now they're old enough to look back on it and redeem themselves in some form or fashion. Well, Nikki also came out and said, "Listen, I haven't drank in 30 years, and blah, blah. I don't know if that's true or not."
Yeah, I mean, think about this: if you played out that same story, and it wasn't Nikk Sixx and Motley Crue, so you just because we've been talking about this.
That's exactly what I was going to go, because we all have that story. It may not be that.
No, but we were just talking about the moms at the Big Oak Ranch.
Yeah.
So that is the story. It is the kid who grows up with, however, one parent, both parents addicted to drugs. They're introduced to drugs in, he was age 6. Mm-hmm. They're dealing drugs by 13, whatever. And then the vast majority of them, not only do they not become Nikk Sixx and Motley Crue, some of them die. Some of them end up in jail. And even if you don't die and you make it through and you get through on the other end, you're forever changed. Like I don't even know how to say this. This whole idea of I came out okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're not dead.
Yeah.
And can you carry on a conversation? Yeah, you can. Maybe you can even carry on a normal conversation. But the demons that you live with, I mean, when that kind of stuff happens to you as a kid, it forever changes you. It creates a trauma in you. Your brain is not designed. Your brain is designed to know that that's not normal. And when your brain has to adapt to that, this is exactly how we have PTSD, particularly in combat vets. We put people on the front line and we put them in a situation that is not supposed to be that way, right? Mm-hmm. But the difference is it's not one day.
Yeah.
It's for months at a time. And so because we're designed to adapt, we adapt to that. But it doesn't mean we don't adapt without all kinds of major problems.
Yeah.
I mean, you give me Nikk Sixx on a couch for 1 hour and I'll, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he's had some therapy. I'll bet you he's had some therapy.
Well, these older guys, what you hope, whether it's therapy or not, is you can either come through this stuff, keep that stuff tucked in, and go to your grave with the fears, the doubts, the traumas, all those kinds of things. Or you can get to a point where you go, I gotta know what this is. Okay, because that's what we're wired. We are wired to think about our own existence. That's what makes us human, right? Mm-hmm. So you get to this point where you go, and you see this in therapy a lot. People are not ready. I'm not ready to do this yet. And then maybe a year later, maybe 10 years, okay, I am ready. And what you hope is for guys like Nikk Sixx, that they're able to kind of go back and see where it is, deal with the demons, and come out now going, okay, I'm forever scarred, and I am, but I'm better than I was.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, I don't know, this is a random thing. Welcome to Kurre and Klapow. I saw Jimmy Buffett doing a PSA for voting. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh my God. This is our show. I'm watching in the gym. At first I thought it was like just an old man.
Yeah, he's old. He's in his 70s.
Oh no, dude, he looks bad.
75, 74.
He looks, I was like, oh no, that can't. And his arms are all shriveled up.
He's playing Tuscaloosa Amphitheater.
Yeah,
or did he just play?
By the way.
September,
I mean, you did. I was thinking about Nikki Sixx, who's 62. I mean, he's got to look rough. Does he look rough?
He still wears makeup.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I'd recognize him if he walked in the studio right now. Probably by his clothes.
Like I'm like, this is terrible. Damon's our friend. Damon looks great.
Damon looks fantastic. Well, I mean,
he's healthy.
He's healthy. Well, I mean, this is what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean,
he plays golf.
Yeah, he plays golf. I mean, he's this is what he's doing. He's like, if I want to keep doing this and I want to do it well,
yeah,
then I got to be straight. At some point in your life, you know, doing coke at 60 is not cool.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of, we always talk about what the difference between a 20-year-old and a 55-year-old. Smoking dope at 55 isn't weird. It's creepy.
Right.
It's just, I'm sorry.
I mean,
it's
there's some, again, unless you're in California and you do gummies, there's some more refined ways.
Yeah, but if you're smoking a hooker, or,
right.
You got a water bong and you're 62 years old, and you're getting off work and you're smoking dope. I mean, that
right.
Or you're going to spring break.
Right.
At 62, or you're watching porn.
Well, what about Potomac?
Porn, drugs, or going to spring. If you're watching porn at 62, you got some issues.
What about going to a bar?
Not 55, by the way.
All right, so let me throw this out. What about going to a bar, most Friday nights or multiple Friday nights?
Meyer.
What?
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying nothing wrong going to a bar, but getting drunk. Drunk, and
depends on what the bar is.
What?
Depends on what the bar is. If it's a neighborhood bar, there's regulars. It's not like a dancing bar.
To get
once in a while.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
But if you're there,
we call it the AMVET.
The what?
The AMVET. The vet. The American veterans have their AMVET places where they serve beer. That's where all the older guys go down. They sit around, they get drunk on Friday nights, and they play cards, and it's totally cool. And they take their wheelchairs home, or they have their wives.
So that's okay.
Yeah. As long as you're not doing it every single day, and I know some guys that do it every single day.
That's what I mean. That's a point.
I know guys who get up 5 o'clock and they're going to have their 6 or 7 beers, and they don't get drunk, but
right, yeah, right. There's a time at which you go, well, that's it.
But it depends. Do they have grandchildren? What else is going on in their lives? Every life's different, but
yeah, I mean, going to the lake and doing coke when you're 55 years old. On a weekend, like it's not cool. Like you think you're cool. See, that's the problem. You think you're cool, right? Your gut's kind of hanging out a little. Maybe not if you're doing coke. You're sort of there, and you got the boat, you got the music going, but your kid is like 30.
Yeah, what's your legacy, man? What do you want to
right.
be? What do you want to be remembered
well, but see,
for?
I think that
being grandpa sitting down the vet at 75, drunk off your ass, or
I think for a lot of people, those are people who make a judgment. And now I'm going to get deep again. They make a judgment. I'm not going to have that legacy. I'm not going to have the well-adjusted, whether or not educated, great job, great grandparent, whatever. So my legacy is going to be, I'm going to stay cool. That's going to be because I don't have an alternative, and I need an identity. I need to have an identity. We all need to have identities.
And we're not slamming on people like that.
No,
but I mean,
maybe a little bit.
A little bit. But yeah, when you want to continue to live like you did back in your 20s, and again, we don't know what happened in the previous 50 or 60 years of a person's life before they get to that point. But I'm assuming that it's something that's. But yeah, I mean, seeing a 65-year-old, smoking a water bong in front of the TV every night is just kind of like
watching Beavis and Butthead.
Like, isn't there more to life than you know? I'm all about feeling good once in a while, but it's kind of like
No, it is.
Get high on life.
No, I don't think. But I do think you got to ask yourself the question. We see this a lot when we watch Below Deck, which is anyway. But I see this. I've been on vacations. You go on vacation and you see the people who go on vacation. They go to all inclusive. I'm all about Klapow's all about the all inclusive.
Yeah.
Love me and all inclusive. My kids will tell you because I don't have to worry about anything: drinks, food, nothing.
Yeah.
And you watch people, and it's really interesting to watch. First, and it's usually Americans that we eat until we're sick,
Yeah.
right? Because it's all we can eat. And we drink until we're smashed.
Yeah.
And we're vomiting because we've eaten too much something, and we're just throwing up because we're drinking all night. And then we do it again, and then we do it again, and we do it again. We do it for like 7 days, and we go, "Oh, that was awesome,"
Yeah.
And over the years, I've watched them. Like, was it really awesome? Like, think about it. You're hungover every day. Now, you paid for this vacation. You're hungover every day. You're all bloated and whatever because you've eaten a bunch of crap. And again, the difference is this is not spring break and you're 20 where you can bounce back. Look at you. You got your bum knee.
Vacations are different.
See, but I'm not just
Vacations are different. I do know some people that are straight and right and
Yep.
good, and then
And
when
they
they
just
go
go
when they go
nutso on vacation.
yeah, you see it every year when guys go to Vegas for a weekend. They have a convention in Vegas. They blow it out for 3 or 4 days, and then they get back and they're like, "Whew." Those are the ones that need a vacation from their vacation. They get back and they're like, "Whew." Yeah, not all of them, but some of them.
I got to get you on the couch.
Yeah,
If that's what you do on your Vegas vacation and you're 50 something. I want to know why. I'm not. I'm
No.
curious. What is it? What are you getting out of it? Escape,
escape. Oh, I think a lot of
Okay.
cases blowing steam off.
which is fine.
Don't have the kids.
Totally get that.
Are you with the wife? That's another thing. Does she want to get blasted? My mom and dad used to go on cruises. I don't know if my dad got drunk, but I mean they'd eat for 7 straight days.
No,
my mom would lose enough money to get in her favorite moo and then she'd come home with 35 pounds on her.
Totally. Yeah.